Today we're going to talk about Bitcoin because we finally got that breakout above $46,000 this past weekend. So I'll show you guys what key levels I'm watching and some targets to keep an eye on as we move into April. Now, if you guys do enjoy this content, be sure to subscribe to the channel and click that bell icon to get notifications because I am releasing these videos every single weekday. And lastly, none of the content in this video is financial advice because it is just my opinion. All right, guys, so I'm really excited to talk about this today because we finally got that breakout above $46,000 for Bitcoin. This is something that I have talked about for weeks and really months now. If you all have followed my recent videos, you know that I was leaning toward the side that we would get that bullish break above $46,000 versus the $30,000 move that most of Twitter was talking about. If you guys have spent any time on Twitter recently, you know exactly what I'm referring to. Most of retail was talking about a move back toward $30,000. A lot of them were even talking about $20,000 Bitcoin, and I personally didn't think that it was going to happen. Now, sure enough, we got that breakout this weekend. All right, so the move above $46,000. And really, this is very much a range. Okay, so this was a range of resistance and it's now flipped to support. So the area between $44,500 and all the way up to $46,000 is going to be a critical support area for Bitcoin as we move into April. So looking back here, you can see where this area clearly had served as resistance for several months. So these lows back here, right around 45,500. And then you have these highs back here that range really from mid 44s all the way up to mid 45s. Now, 46,200 is the yearly open for Bitcoin. So it's technically trading above that level right now. However, Bitcoin is running into a little bit of problem today, right around $48,000. And the reason for that is that if we look back here toward the first few days of 2022, okay, so this candle right here, this green candle, this was January 1st. All right, now the high for January, all right, meaning the previous high for 2022 was right there around $48,000, actually just below it. All right, so this is why Bitcoin is struggling a little bit today, right around this mark. So if you look here at the hourly time frame, you can see we are getting a little bit of selling pressure here, right around $48,000 as you would expect, because again, that was the previous 2022 high. Technically, Bitcoin has made a new 2022 high, but obviously, as we know, it needs to close above this area to flip it to support over the coming days. So here's what I'm watching for as we move into April. All right, so if Bitcoin does pull back from $48,000, then I am going to keep a very close eye on this region down here between mid 44 all the way up toward $46,000. Because again, that's going to be critical support for Bitcoin. We need to see the market stay above this area to stay constructive. Alternatively, a close below 44,500 would be bearish. But right now, it's above it on a daily and weekly closing basis. So the market does look very good as we move into next month. So this is the area of support I'd keep an eye on. Obviously, if we got to close above $48,000 on a daily closing basis, then that could flip this area to support and expose that area between $52,000 and $53,000. So this is the next resistance area that I've talked about now for weeks, where if we got that break above 46, which we just did, then this area up here between 52 and 53 would be the next resistance area for Bitcoin. Now, I do want to talk about something before we move on to the Tether dominance chart. But before I do, look, I don't ask for money for these videos, but these videos and the posts do take hours to put together. So I really appreciate it when you guys smash that like button. So if you are enjoying this content, if it is helping you, please go ahead and smash that like button. I really appreciate it. All right, so let's look at something quickly before we go on to the Tether dominance chart. If I remove this level down here and draw a trend line off of some of these recent lows, all right, it's pretty clear that this formation right here was an ascending triangle. All right, now if I take off log view so that we can draw a line here from essentially, close to the bottom down here up to this high, which was really the high of that pattern. All right, and then duplicate that and move it up here to this breakout point. All right, you can see that we get an area up here right around $57,000, maybe $58,000. So very, very close to the $60,000 region. Now, that may not line up with an exact level I have on my chart like this. However, if you look back here toward 57,000, there is a lot of price action that's traded around this zone. Okay, so technically speaking, if you were to treat this as an ascending triangle, then the objective would be somewhere around that $57,000 mark as we move into April. All right, but I'm going to show you something that I think is going to be even more accurate as we move into next month. So the Tether dominance chart is something that I've talked about now for the past couple of weeks, and this is the weekly time frame. So Tether dominance, in case you missed the other videos, Tether dominance shows you how dominant the Tether stablecoin is in the crypto market. Okay, so this is not the price of Tether because Tether mimics the price of the dollar. But what this shows you is how dominant the Tether stablecoin is. In other words, when this is moving higher, all right, this is an indication that market participants are pulling their money out of Bitcoin and Ethereum, etc., and they're moving it into the Tether stablecoin, right, for safety. So when you see this market then rotate lower, this is an indication that just the reverse of that, that market participants are feeling better about market conditions and they're willing to risk their capital. So what we've talked about for a while now is that we needed to break below this trend line up here that extends off of the November lows. And you can see where we have this longer trend line that extends from the 2019 low. Okay, now what's interesting about this is that if you had this trend line drawn on your chart prior to this low back here in November from last year, then you could have marked the exact top for Bitcoin. All right, so let me show you what I mean. So once you had these two lows, all right, so this low right here, and then also these lows through here, you could draw this trend line. Now, this low right here is the November top for Bitcoin. Remember that these two charts move inversely to one another. So looking here at the daily time frame, all right, what you can see is that this low right here, this is the November 2021 low. And sure enough, this low right here, right off of that trend line, lined up exactly with Bitcoin topping out right here at $69,000. All right, so this right here, this candle was November 10th. If you look at the Tether dominance chart, this green candle right here where the low was right there at that trend line was also November 10th. Okay, so this 2019 trend line basically marked the exact top for Bitcoin last year. All right, so I think that this is an incredibly handy tool when we move forward and look at where Bitcoin could be going in April, and also trying to identify some key levels for the market. All right, so speaking of which, let's go ahead and do that now. So staying on the daily time frame, if you look here, this is the recent breakdown that we saw. All right, so we have the November trend line right here. You can see the market was staying above this level for several months. And again, when Tether dominance is increasing like this, it's a signal that market participants are pulling their money out of the crypto market and back to safety. So sure enough, during this entire time, we saw cryptos pull back. Now, this breakdown, okay, this close right here, I talked about this on Twitter. This was kind of the catalyst for money flowing back into cryptos. And this is what kicked off the rallies for Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now, at the moment, you can see where this market has come into some support. All right, so notice how some of these highs and lows from back here, all right, we have these highs through here, and then also these lows. So right around 3.8%. This area right here is going to be support for the Tether dominance chart. Now, it's no coincidence that this lines up with Bitcoin, all right around the $48,000 area. All right, so if we move over here, this is what we just talked about, how 48,000 is or was the previous 2022 high from right back here. Okay, so it's no coincidence that we have Bitcoin running into resistance and the Tether dominance chart running into support. So here's what I'm thinking could happen. All right, if we do get a pullback from Bitcoin down here toward $44,000 to $46,000, then we could see the Tether dominance chart also rally from support down here, potentially back here to this area. Okay, right around 4%. This was the March 1st low back here. Now it did serve as support here a few days ago, but of course we know that it eventually broke down and Bitcoin broke through 46,000. Okay, so Bitcoin could pull back to 44 to 46,000. We could see Tether dominance come up here and test this area around 4% or so. Now, here is what is going to be interesting to watch over the coming weeks is if we do see this market come down and test this 2019 trend line. First of all, there's a lot of room between the current price here for Tether dominance and where it could be going here over the coming weeks. And I would be willing to bet that this level down here, all right, this support level right down here around 3.16%, that this right here lines up most likely with Bitcoin between 52 and 53. All right, so again, resistance for BTC up here. And I'm willing to bet that this level right down here is going to line up with that area for Bitcoin. Now, this 2019 trend line down here is probably somewhere between 57 and 60,000. Now remember, 57 is technically the measured objective of this pattern down here if you treat it as an ascending triangle, okay? So you may be thinking, well, what's the point in all this? Because if they mimic each other, then shouldn't they just be showing the same thing? But here's the thing. A lot of times you don't know if a level is, in this case, exactly 52 or 53, or this one up here is exactly $60,000. So what you can do when you have a market like this that is carving some very precise levels, okay, you can use this in combination with Bitcoin to really kind of fine tune those areas that you're watching. So in this case, if you have any kind of confusion on the Bitcoin chart as far as resistance levels, the Tether dominance chart, in my opinion, shows it very clearly, okay? Right around 3.8% is going to be support right through here. And once again, right around 3.16. Again, very, very clear through here, lows, and then also these highs. Okay, so if there is any confusion on the Bitcoin chart, in my opinion, looking at the Tether dominance chart, which moves inversely to it, is a great strategy. All right, so that's it for today. We don't know if we are going to get a pullback from Bitcoin here or if it's just going to break out above $48,000. But what I do know is that the market has now officially broken out from this $46,000 area. Now, of course, if you're looking to buy, not financial advice, but it is probably prudent to go ahead and wait for a pullback just because the market has been straight up now for about 7 days. All right, so after 7 days, 7 green days in a row, you are going to get a pullback eventually. It's just a matter of when. So does it occur at 48,000, or do we get the break above this and then we get some kind of pullback into here and then we move higher? That's the big question right now. But at least for me, if I'm trading this, I'm waiting for a pullback after that big breakout, just because the market is getting a little bit stretched here to the upside. All right, so that's it for this video. If you did enjoy the content, be sure to smash that like button, and also don't forget to subscribe and click that bell icon. I will talk to you all again tomorrow.